Just hit record because if I didn't, boy, this would make us not happy. We have enough other stuff to do. We don't need to do like two of these back to back. Uh, uh, I'm gonna do that. And they do a little scooch back and forth here. That looks not too bad. Yeah, and I can sit up straight. Fine, I'll sit up straight. All right. And so, this episode, for those of us joining us, I think we talked about it last time. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to season, I think it's 22, correct?
Yep.
22. And we're going to go through starting at episode 2, because this is episode 2. We're going to take the title, we're going to shove it into AI, and we're going to see what happens. And so far, I've already shoved it into AI. I'll join that when we get into the podcast side of it, the audio side. And it's given me like 10 things for us to talk about. So we will not get through all 10. That may be the bonus at the end of this is we'll cover like one extra one. But we don't want to spend all night on it. So that being said, because we're already late to our start, I have my water. I have a few minutes before my pizza is done, so I can get my intro in, and then I can mute it and disappear while Michael talks. Hopefully, he may have to vamp for a while. I just got to figure out where I'm going to put my food when I get it here. I'll figure it out. So this is going to be a real fun time. The normal train wreck that you would expect with a 3, a 2, a 1. Well, hello and welcome back. We are Developreneur. We are the Building Better Developers podcast. We are starting a new season. We talked about last episode. We talked about what we're going to do. This is going to be basically 2 seasons back, but now we're going to feed it into AI, and we're going to see where that journey takes us. But before we do that, I am one of your guides on this incredible journey. Not artificial intelligence in any way. No artificial, no intelligence, none of the above. I am just Rob Broadhead. I am one of the founders of Developreneur, also a founder of RB Consulting, where actually we are pretty darn intelligent there. And actually, more importantly, we have a background in technology, and our goal is to sit down with you as a business, talk about what your goals are, where you're going, what is your current technology footprint? Is it big sprawling thing? Is it nice and clean? We do a technology assessment. We sit down, work with you, figure out where you're at, and then through ideas like simplification, integration, automation, and even innovation, we will help you craft a roadmap, a recipe for success that is specific to you. And then we will help you execute it or give you whatever you need so that you can go on and execute yourself, execute that and plan on your own, and move into a better ROI on that biggest expenditure being technology. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing was followed by the bad thing. So way back several episodes now, we talked about like one of the things is I've got a couple of new toys that I've picked up as we're working towards a more of a remote kind of relationship, and had some really nice screens. It was a nice little thing. So I went from my 1 screen on my laptop to 3 screens, and it's portable, and it was pretty darn cool. I think I may even had a link in the show notes somewhere. Well, it turns out that that doesn't work for my wife's laptop because she's got a MacBook Air. Like, spoiler alert, if you have the MacBook Air, it does not support more than 1 extra monitor. So basically it would give you 1 monitor either side. The other one is just a screen basically at that point. So I was like, all right, we'll go ahead. And since those don't work, we're going to get an extra one. Well, I got another one, got that today. That's the bad thing. That plus you have to hear through all this. It took quite a while. I'm used to Amazon and it being like next day. It's now like 10, 15 days later, finally got it. Now to the good part. I got that today. It is slick. It's light. It's really easy to plug in, and even lighter than the other ones. And it's actually a little bit better display resolution. So I'm very happy with that. I can geek out a little bit again. And I didn't really need 2 screens because it was too easy for me to get distracted by too many other things. So it's sort of nice to get down to like my main screen and then maybe something for doing a little reference on whatever it is I'm chasing through. That being said, we can now move it over to Michael. I'm not even going to make any jokes this time because I've taken too long. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, everyone. My name is Michael Meloche. I'm one of the co-founders of Developreneur, Building Better Developers. I'm also the founder of Envision QA, where we help businesses by creating tailored software to meet your needs. It can be something that is very simple to just help eliminate the processes that are eating up your time to help speed up your business. It could be, hey, we can automate updating backups of your website so that you don't have to waste time. Or, oh, hey, your site gets hacked and now you're down and have to spend thousands to get your site back up. We essentially partner with our customers to help them with whatever software or technology problems plague their business. Good thing, bad thing. This week's mixed bag. Good thing. The weather's better. Sinuses are finally improving. We're past that. I'm praying all the Canadian fire smoke does not come down this far south because that would be bad. Bad thing. Right before this call, wife came upstairs wanting an HDMI cable because apparently our TV downstairs suddenly went out. So if you hear a large crash during this, that's what's going on. I don't know what I'm going to be walking into after this. So good thing is I'm upstairs recording. Bad thing is my wife is having to deal with the technology computer or TV downstairs.
All right. Well, good thing for us is we have a friend, AI, that is going to help us out this time. And so looking back, what I did is I took our title, which was Embracing the Problem Solving Mindset from Coder to Developer. And I fed that into AI, into ChatGPT. And I just said, for developers and entrepreneurs as an audience, what are some good points for embracing the problem solving mindset from coder to developer? And of course, it is very positive. It's like, great topic. And it tells me that, hey, it speaks to a crucial evolution in a developer's journey. Okay, good enough. Let's get into here's some compelling angles to cover. And I think we'll just sort of like walk through these and maybe we'll have a little discussion about these as we find one that's like a really cool thing to talk further on. Mindset shift from task execution to outcome ownership. So for a coder, it focuses on completing assigned tasks or features. For a developer, asks why the feature matters, what problem it solves, and how it affects the end user. Encourage devs to go beyond ticket-driven work and think about business value. This is an excellent first one. I think this is something that we like beat this drum on a regular basis of know your why. That is the best way to move from a coder to a developer. A coder is just going to like complete a ticket and move on. Developers are going to actually solve a problem. They're not just there to write code. They're actually there to solve a problem. And it's not just like check a box that it's been solved, but how do we solve it in the best possible way for our users or, cost of resources and things like that. So I think that's like, it's great that is the first thing it hits is one of these that like we hit this on a regular basis. We definitely beat this drum. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is probably one of our better topics that we've talked about because, a lot of times the coder, those starting out are just someone that all they care about is just getting their work done. They're just going to look at a ticket and say, oh, it needs this, get done, move on, end of story. With developers, you tend to be more problem solvers. You tend to be more forward thinking. You tend to try to solve problems upstream rather than basically put out fires constantly. You're like, how do I stop this from being on fire? So you start thinking through these problems. It is an interesting topic, though, because it also kind of delves into what role you're in. Because if you are a consultant and you are on a time-based to completion, you only have like maybe 20 hours for your budget. Sometimes, though, you do have to kind of switch modes and get into that task-based approach. You are more a coder than a developer. If you have time on the projects, you spend a little more time developing and making sure those tasks are solving a problem. But sometimes, again, just depending upon where you're at, what your position is, you might get stuck in that coder mindset. It's like they just want you to be the monkey. They just want you to be knocking out code as quickly as possible and not wasting time going down those rabbit holes or trying to go beyond the scope of the ticket.
That's true. And I think that is one of the things that we talk about when we talk about the business side of it. It's that you want to avoid getting into that situation. You don't want to be in a situation where you are, you're cash strapped, essentially. You need to have that conversation sooner rather than later with your customers to make sure that you can build that buffer. Number two is a really good one. Problem framing over code writing. Great developers learn to frame problems clearly before touching code. Tools, ask questions, write problem statements, consider constraints. Entrepreneurs appreciate developers who challenge vague requirements to clarify the core problem. That one, I'm going to say that they don't always appreciate that, but I think they do need that. I have been in too many situations where people have gotten frustrated when it's like, okay, let's talk about this in a much more specific way. Let's dig into these requirements, and it's, take it from just something that's scratched on a napkin and into something that we can actually build with it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this one's kind of a funny one because you and I clash on this quite a bit. Sometimes because I'm more because of my years of testing experience, I tend to like defining the requirements and fleshing them out a little bit more on the front end. A little different than the agile approach. This is just more before you touch a ticket, you read what the ticket is, what is the requirements, and really flesh out what is the end goal? What are the user acceptance testing? Basically, what are you producing? And if you start from there, you can essentially write your tests or write tests to essentially test what you need to do from the get-go. And then you literally write the code to fill in your tests. So you are essentially defining the problem a little more acutely, and then you can come through and put the tasks in place. Alternatively to that, though, with Rob's approach, sometimes it's more the get it done approach, but you do still need to understand the ticket. You need to take a moment to read through. Don't just assume everything's there, because there could be something in the ticket that says, hey, change this parameter and we expect X. But what no one may think about is that, oh, well, if I change this parameter here, yes, this one section of code works. But now I just broke the entire application, because by flipping that one field, you may have essentially just disabled all the other features in the application. So you have to be careful just taking things at face value.
Yeah, I think that's where you get into things like test driven development, things like that, is that, and some of the other ways that are like the old RAD approach and some of those things, which are, and Agile does, I know I'm going a little off it. Agile does muddy the waters sometimes, because it's too easy for people to push requirements down the road and not think about them. However, and this has happened on too many projects I've been on, is that you get farther down and there were core requirements that really should have been addressed. It goes back to that idea of some of these, entrepreneurs are not a fan of being called out on like all of these details, because sometimes they don't know what they don't know. And that's okay to some extent, but you've also got to have somebody that's really like driving that process to make sure that we are working towards the things that matter when we're putting these things together. It's really thinking through the problem and what are the key pieces that we need to know so that we can get those requirements built in, sooner rather than later. This is a fun one. The next one, pattern recognition and abstraction. Skilled developers look for patterns and problems and abstract solutions that can be reused. For entrepreneurs, this mindset leads to more scalable and maintainable products. For example, turning a one-off integration into a plug-and-play module. This is actually an area where I love it, because it is really where this goes back to the developer book, that is where it really talks about taking your growth, your roadmap for your career, building some things like applications and things like that then end up turning into products and services that you can provide to others, whether it's your own personal repository or, code library, or an application that you use scratching your own itch. Maybe it's a development tool of some sort. It could be something that you use for your, like, I've got a buddy that is that actually was an ex-roommate that created Bazenta basically out of his own needs for tracking information around a consulting company and about software consulting and how do you keep track of that. So I think these are things where this is where developer, and especially the developer side of it, really starts to kick in, because now you're looking at ways to essentially churn from spending hours to solve a problem to how do I reduce those hours, because I can take all of these bits and pieces and solve a new problem using the same things that I've already touched on.
Yeah, my analogy of that is going to be more on the testing side. if you have a problem or you're trying to work through things, if you want to test, the quickest way to test is to just basically record a whole bunch of tests within your application. You write hundreds and hundreds of tests, just quickly record them. However, if you're more the entrepreneurial, more the framework building, you take the approach of, okay, what really goes into building these tests? What do I need for this? There is a common, if you take the record functionality and now think more along the lines of process, procedures, user interactions, you think instead of going through the whole process of recording every functionality in the system, you have things like, okay, a user needs to log in. So you write a component, a function, a module for just login testing. And now you can plug that into other tests so you don't have to reuse that logic. With websites, it's great. It's called page object model. You essentially define your tests at the page level and you do it through actions, through what user interactions within the pages. And then you can just plug and play those into other application or other tests. And that's, to me, a kind of just another abstract way of thinking through this problem. Because if you can look at a problem, and there are multiple ways to do it, but if you can reuse multiple components in other places, build that code library, build that kitchen sink app. And I think even today in the IntelliJ presentation they were doing, they were talking about using database models to build core components that you basically just pull out of the database to build your application for reusability. So you essentially have a code library in a database, and you just pull from that for different applications.
Yeah, that's one of those areas that is probably is very near and dear to my heart, is doing the essentially code automation, code generation, so that you have applications that can build applications and things like that. That's sort of what no code really has embraced that for sure. But there's a lot of other things like that we can utilize that will take that idea of, hey, I've solved a problem. And actually, funny enough, AI is very much that. It's like that problem's been solved somewhere, so let's go grab it and reuse that solution as opposed to reinventing the wheel. Now, we are, like I said, we can go off the track fast. So I'm going to like crank through these real quick so we aren't like spending 6 hours in this specific episode. So one of the things that next, product thinking, developers who ask, how will users interact with this, or what metrics should we monitor, are far more valuable. This is a great one because it gets back to the why. It's like, why are we doing this? And is it actually going to be useful? Collaborative problem solving. Developers grow by learning to work with designers, marketers, and product managers. Great solutions come from diverse input, not siloed code. Entrepreneurs want devs who can communicate and think cross-functionality. Gosh, I said I was going to blow through it, but that's like one that is full stop. That is where you're going to definitely jump into that developer world, that architect, that solution architect, those kinds of the titles that everybody wants in the development world. You need to be able to understand how to talk to the people in the different departments. You need to understand how marketing and sales and all of those other pieces work, because you're going to end up talking to them at some point. You're going to need to have them in your mind somewhere along the way when you're building out an application.
And these are
thoughts on that.
Well, and these are things that AI can't necessarily bridge those gaps yet. So even though companies want to go full-fledged AI, like we're kind of testing the waters here, learning these skills, being able to interact with multiple departments, understand different areas of the company and how they interact with your software, is still very key to a developer's journey and an entrepreneur's journey. Because if you don't know how to talk to these players, you're going to be siloing your application or siloing your company and not be able to grow.
I got to throw out a recommendation again that I've done before, and it is Scott Adams, who wrote Dilbert. He's got a book called Loser Think, and it's a really good. It is, yes, there's Dilbert comics and stuff like that, but it's really actually a pretty deep psychiatry type of book. And he talks about, that's one of the best things about it. He's got 3 or 4 chapters where he talks about the typical mindsets of people that are certain types of careers. So this is an engineering mindset. This is a sales mindset. This is a marketing mindset. This is a executive mindset. And as he goes through these, they really make sense. And the key to this is it talks about where a lot of times the disconnect comes in some of the communication because you're not in the same mindset as that other person you're talking to. So I think it's a really good one to to read. Like it is not super light. It is actually it gets into some pretty deep kind of areas, but it's actually a really awesome book for that kind of stuff. Using constraints as creativity fuel. So embrace limitations like time, budget, and technology as opportunities to innovate. Developers who thrive under constraints are assets to lean startups and bootstrap founders. This, I'm just going to throw a quick one and then we're going to move on, is that this is where it really helps you to not be tied to a technology. It helps you to be technology agnostic. Spend some time learning other stuff. Don't just be the one trick pony that's like, I know C sharp, I know Java, or whatever it is, even if it's the latest thing. Like right now, if you know Tailwind really good, awesome. But there's a lot of other apps out there and it's going to disappear at some point and it's going to be picked up by something else. There's going to be something that replace it. So make sure you're always working on expanding your quiver, the arrows that are in there.
And not just that, but different software languages offer different features and functionalities that could be better for the particular project you have.
Oh, very much so. Debugging is a learning superpower. Debugging teaches systems thinking, attention to detail, and persistence. I encourage devs to treat bugs as puzzles, not annoyances. For entrepreneurs, devs who embrace debugging reduce downtime and increase product quality. This is it's interesting because we've never really talked about it in this point of view from this aspect. But I really think that if you hate debugging, then you're probably not going to become a developer because that's just part of it. Is it's like, I think I got it. And it does, I'm not going to say that you don't get frustrated with it. That I trust me, been there, have all of the medals for frustration in dealing with debugging over the years. But it is also, there should be that little like, yeah, when you actually get stuff to work and you get that endorphin rush. Plus you learn stuff. It is amazing how much I've learned debugging, code, especially other people's code over the years. Continuous feedback loops. Developers should seek feedback from both users and systems, whether it's logs, metrics, user behavior. The mindset should be release, observe, learn, improve. That is how you should do it. That is a cycle to success, growth in particular. Entrepreneurs love devs who iterate fast and use data to guide development. The last two will be business awareness and empathy, and then tools are temporary, thinking is forever. Both of those actually go back to the whole idea of don't be a one-trick pony and realize that you're solving a problem. You're not playing with a new technology. You may get to play with a new technology, but it really comes down to you're solving a problem. This problem you can solve for me is send me an email at info@developaneur.com and let me know what are your thoughts. Where are you going with these kinds of things as far as like what are the technologies you're jumping into? Where would you love to hear more about a specific technology? Do you think AI is cool? Do you think it's going to dominate the world? Do you think it's going to remove everybody's job and we're all going to be sitting around and just going to be doing podcasts because AI is going to do all the work? Always interested to hear your feedback. We'd love to hear it, whether it's through the email, whether you hit us up on developaneur.com. You can leave us feedback there. Leave us feedback wherever you listen to podcasts. YouTube, you can check out the Developaneur channel. You can check us out on X @Developaneur. We have a Facebook page. We got a lot of crap out there. We got an insane amount of content out there. So definitely take advantage of it because it is absolutely free of charge. But if you want to send us a donation, we are also cool with that. That being said, there is no challenge this time. This is a challenge-free season. So you guys get to like coast a little bit. Go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time. Bonus. I tossed out the idea.
What else is in there for bonus?
What?
I said, what else is there in there for bonus? What's it tell you?
9 and 10. So business awareness and empathy. I'll go ahead and read those. Understand business goals, acquisition, retention, revenue. Code should serve strategy, not the other way around. Developers with this awareness make better product decisions and trade-offs. Number 10 was tools are temporary, thinking is forever. Tech stacks change, problem-solving ability endures. Encourage devs to focus on fundamentals, algorithms, architecture, communication. Entrepreneurs benefit from devs who don't chase shiny tools, but solve problems effectively. So thoughts on that?
So I'll go with the latter because when I went to college, I kept wondering why they kept trying to teach us the science and not actual programming. Like they kept teaching us all the sorting things, like database models. And it's like, why are you teaching us all this? We're coders, right? We're supposed to build things. We're supposed to code things. And honestly, it took me about 2 years after I got out of college where I was teaching for a while. It dawned on me that, oh, I can look at any system and really understand what's going on, regardless of the language or the technology that's there. It's the fundamentals of understanding how things work, which is really interesting because if you're the type that wants to take things apart to see how they work and then try to put them back together, that is the perfect example of a developer versus a coder. A coder is a person that sits down, plugs it in, turns it on. Great, I did my job. It's working. The developer is more inclined to, how does that work? Let me take it apart. Let me look at, let me get into the guts of it. Let me see how it works. And then, oh, okay, next thing that comes along that's similar, I can take it apart, put it together again. And you may get to the point where you figure out the next better thing and you build it because you understand all the pieces that come before it.
I agree. I think that's my college season. The best thing I got out of that was they taught me how to learn. Where I went, every class we took was a new language. So you always had to learn. You were learning theory, whatever it was. Now you're learning sorting techniques, but you're doing it in a language that you've never learned and never used before. So every time it was learning a new language and learning some new theory stuff. And usually it helped because you were usually learning a language that was very well suited for whatever the topic was, which was awesome from a resume point of view, because when I graduated, I had, probably already had 15 languages that I had apps that I'd written. I had utilized those things by the time I got through there. But the funny thing is almost all of those don't exist now. And, I very quickly realized that, I've got to learn. Actually all the languages that I use on a regular basis right now, did not use it all in college. I'm not sure they even existed. I think they did to some extent, but like Python, way, it was version 1 or whatever it was. Java didn't exist.
So I got one additional bonus question I want to throw out there. And it's along the lines of the debugging, problem solving. What is your experience or your advice to our listeners for how to handle a job where they encourage problem solving, where they encourage, you're running into problems, figure them out, work through the problems, versus a company where, you can't figure it out, and your manager stands over you, why doesn't it work? Why doesn't it work? They don't really give you time. So you have like one company that fosters and encourages figuring things out, problem solving, and you have one where it's, I want results.
Well, and I think the results is honestly, the short answer is the result. If you want results, you're probably going to end up with a coder. You're not going to have a developer because it's like, I just need to get something done. Tell me what to do. Sometimes you combine both. I've known people like, just get it done. I'm not going to give you anything to do it. Go figure it out. That's actually sort of fun, but it's also very difficult. And especially if you're not already a solid developer, you're just going to get ticked off and quit and go work at Walmart or something like that. I think at that point, I am not going to quit and go work at Walmart. Instead, I'm going to wrap this episode up and continue munching on my pizza because I'm starving. And then we will come back around and we're going to just keep on doing this. It's pretty cool. I'm already looking ahead at like what the next episode is going to be. We're going to talk about solving problems without solving the problem. We're going to see what AI says about that. This should be really fun. Okay. Go out there and have yourself a good one. I appreciate the time you guys have spent. Thank you. Sorry if we went a little long this time, but we'll get back next time. And I'm not going to promise we won't go long next time too, because this stuff can get us going a little bit off the rails and down some rabbit trails. And that's okay. That is part of being a better developer. Go out there and have yourself a good one. We will talk to you next time around.